miracle, really, just from the very beginning. And so we're glad you're here. I wanted to talk a little bit about, in each time that I tell a Camille story, she always says, please don't tell any more Camille stories. But I'm inspired by stories that include Camille, so I have to tell you all this story. This summer, Tim Tormey and I had this brilliant plan that we were going to have a nice romantic dates with our wives, rafting the Coosa River at night. And at the time, it seemed like a great idea because, you know, that night there was going to be a super moon and it was going to be super bright. And I just kind of equated that with romantic. And I thought, well, that sounds good. And then Tim and I had rafted the Coosa the night before. Now, Tim's an ex-Marine fighter pilot, so he likes that kind of adrenaline stuff, and I do too. But this time we thought it'd be really smart to include our wives, and they would really enjoy that. And so normally we'll double date, and we'll go either to City Grill, which is Kim's favorite, or we'll head to Sushi. And I said to Camille, you know, I really think this is a great idea. I'd love to take you all raft the Coosa tonight with the moonlight and everything with Kim and Tim. And Camille said, can't we just get a little sushi? Or just I said, tomorrow morning you're going to wake up and you're not going to wake up and say, wow, that was great sushi we just had last night. You'll forget about the sushi, but you'll remember this forever. So anyhow, somehow we both convinced our very reluctant brides, and so we loaded the kayaks on our trucks, and as often is the case, I'm usually about an hour late everywhere I go. If I've ever delivered anybody in here, I am usually an hour later than the nearest mistake. And that particular night, we had a hard time getting our kayaks together, getting our stuff together, so we didn't get to the dam right below the Jordan Dam till 7:30. Well, our original goal was 6:30, so we could get past the Class 3 rapid before it got dark. But we thought, well, we can make it. We've done this before. Tim's a Marine. You know, I'm a gynecologist. I don't know what I brought to the table. But we got ready to get in the river. Well, when we pulled up, normally, if you've ever rafted the Coosa, during the week they run the river a lot lower and slower. And then the weekends, they run it high and fast. Well, I had never seen it that high in my life. And it was like a Wednesday. And I was like, I had never seen it. And Tim looked at me, and I kind of looked at Tim. But we're already there. Our wives already have their life jackets on. And they don't really realize how high this river is because they don't ride the Coosa often. But Tim and I knew this is going to be a wild date. And so, anyway, we got in the water, and initially it was fine because the sun was still setting, it was beautiful, the weather was nice, and we were going really fast down the river, and so we weren't having to paddle much, and it was pleasant, and we laughed the first little bit of that, y'all have to agree. And as we got closer and closer to Moccasin Gap, you could hear it. And if you've ever been down Moccasin Gap, when they're running water, I mean, it sounded like a turbine down there, and it was getting dark, really dark. And that super moon that I was counting on was covered by a big cloud. So the only thing I could see, and we were on a double kayak, the only thing I could see is the back of Camille's head. That's all I could see. And you could hear this churning water as and Camille, who is kind of risk averse, you know, she doesn't really like to take risks. She says, this sounds kind of dangerous. I said, oh no, girl, it's always like that. She said, I get a little worried about this. I said, no, we'll be fine. Well, we flipped a couple of times that night, not just the one, but and we'd already flipped a couple of times on the smaller things. And we were coming into that. Now, Tim, being a very cocky Marine fighter pilot, says to me, hey guys, when y'all all flip, I'll be behind you picking up your stuff, and I'll meet you down here and rescue you at the end. You know, and I thought that ain't gonna happen to me. We hit the rapids and scuttled our boat. The paddles went everywhere. I lost the cooler. Almost lost Camille. I grabbed her as we're flying down, so I pulled her up on my chest, I'm saying toes up, nose up, that whitewater rafting sort of thing, and you had to bang your chest to get the water out of your chest. Kid was coughing for days after that. And so she's good and aggravated with me now. I mean, it's not just, I'm having an unpleasant time. I mean, she's mad at this point. And we're hitting the part now that you have to paddle. So we're paddling, it's still pitch black. And then almost on cue, 200 yards from the takeout, the cloud moves to this beautiful moon. And all this light that would have been very useful at the Class 3 rally, now suddenly is illuminating the whole thing in a really super cool glow. And by now we are beat to death. And Camille turns around and looks at me, she says, "Good try. That was a good try." But it's amazing what a little light can do. Just a little light. A little bit of light that night, it would have been a different night. It's amazing what a little light can do. We live in dark times. And I don't have to convince any of you in here that we live in dark times. And we as a nation have forgotten who we are. If you read what the founding fathers said about this nation, you would read that we were founded on a Christian principle. In fact, it was stated by one of the founding fathers that this government will not stand apart from Christian and religious morality. And that's what we're seeing. We've gradually withdrawn God from the public square. He's not welcome anymore. In the 1960s, we removed him from school. Now we can see that we're reaping the consequences of generations my age that were raised devoid of God in public school. We're starting to see what that looks like in the darkness. That crime's up, drugs are running rampant, abortion on demand. In fact, even the most recent election, the number of people that were angry over the abortion bans is concerning. That they are just as behemoths pro-choice as we are pro-life. And we're living in dark times. And it shouldn't surprise us that the Bible says that we will be in dark times. In fact, I think people who don't know Christ are kind of like me and Camille going down the Coosa River with no light. They're just blind. And every rapid they hit, it scuttles their boat. They don't know even direction. And it's even got to the point we don't know who we are, male, female. These are dark times. 2 Corinthians 4:4 says, "In their case, the God of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelievers to keep them from seeing the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God." In some ways, it's not their fault. They're blind. They don't know. Ephesians 6:12 says, "We don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places." Our enemies are not the pro-choice person in your office. It's not the person who, even our elected officials are not our enemies. Satan's the enemy. He's blinding their eyes. Now, those of us who can see, who have light, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity. Ed Gannon said tonight to me, he said, the darker it gets, the brighter a single small light becomes. It's amazing what a little bit of light can do. Matthew 5 says, "You are the light of the world." Christ said this in his Sermon on the Mount. He said, "You are the light of the world, a city set on a hill that cannot be hidden. Nor do people light a lamp or put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who's in heaven." You are the light of the world. He's talking about us, believers. We are that light. And it's amazing what just a little bit of light can do. 2016, one man, Brian Espy, asked me a very passionate question. He says, why don't we have a mobile unit in Montgomery, Alabama? One man holding up his light. It's amazing what one light, one little bit of light might do. A few weeks later, 29 people met in the living room and began to pray about what might happen. One light lit 29 others. It's amazing what just a little bit of light can do. Then 200 people came to our first gala, and we raised over 100,000 gross. And Brian apologized for that. He said, man, I thought we'd raised the whole thing. I sure am sorry. I said, man, you just raised $100,000 in one night. And then God raised the rest in 9 months. I don't think that was an accident. It's amazing what just a little bit of light can do. We got our bus. It came after Christmas, or right before Christmas, I guess. We got our licensing and everything, and it came in on December 26th. And I thought, well, we'll go out, and we'll go out after the new year, give everybody a chance to get their feet wet. And our staff was not having any of that. So we're going out on December 26th. They were so passionate. And they went out almost the first day we had our license. And it's amazing what just a little bit of light can do. Now we have 124 active volunteers, 12 staff members, going out 5 days a week in 3 different buses, 2 in Birmingham and 1 here. It's amazing what just a little bit of light can do. We've seen 6,233 clients on our 3 buses. We've done 4,973 ultrasounds. It's just amazing what just a few holding up their light can do. Every time the bus goes out, there's only 3 people on the bus. Only 3. We got over 200 here tonight to try to put them on that bus, but there's only 3 ladies on the bus. And they go out and they do amazing things. I feel a little bit like our board feels a little bit like, I've said this before in here, but we feel like mission control sending a rocket to the moon, and we never get to go. I'm the little fellow with the black tie and the white shirt watching them go, and I never get to see what happens on the bus, but we get to hear their amazing stories. It's amazing what just 3 lights on one bus can do. Out of the 4,973 ultrasounds, 4,843 planned to parent, but the number that I really want you to look at, 362 women canceled an abortion because 3 buses went out with 3 ladies each. It's amazing what just a little light, because that's what we do. We just shine a little light on the baby. And when they see that heartbeat and they see that baby, that mama's heart takes over. And 89% were parents. It's amazing what just a little bit of light will do. And then finally, the reason that I'm going to stay in this ministry and continue to press is that there was 268 women that will be in heaven because we presented the gospel to them on the back of that bus. 268 people prayed to receive Christ on those 3 buses. It's amazing what a little bit of light can do. So I want to conclude. We're going to do a little bit of audience participation. This is different than anything I've done before, so you'll have to participate with me or it'll be very awkward for me up here. So everybody stand up. My friend Mike Molina is going to lead us in a little bit of something. All right. What Matt's been talking about all night long is this little bit of light and what it can do. So tonight he asked me if I would sing something that we've all grown up hearing, which is This Little Light of Mine. So I think we're going to have the words up on the screen. So we're going to sing a couple of verses. Ready? Just a little light of hours before this night to come and do that. Now, you had no warning, so thank you, Mike. I want to introduce a couple of special guests. Greg and Misty Van Buskirk are all the way here from Ohio. They came down, he is the director of the entire fleet. So we are 3 of 40 units just like us all over the country. So I'm going to get y'all to stand up and clear up your time. I also want to welcome Representative Hassel. Did he step away? Is he? Okay, Representative Hassel and his wife are here. We're thankful for y'all. And they are in the House of Representatives. Are there any other political guests here tonight with us? We sure are thankful for y'all being here. Thank you. So, you're invited here for a reason. You're not just random. We don't believe it's an accident that every seat in here is full. You are invited to be involved. Robin's going to come up shortly and tell you ways that you can be invited, but there's all kinds of ways. You can be a volunteer on the bus. The women that do that love that. My wife holds a little sign outside the bus that's a welcome wagon sort of thing. It's just free ultrasounds, and she's kind of hospitality. They like that. Susan, you do that still, I think. Anybody else do the hospitality, the street advocate part? That's an easy thing to do, and it's important. Drivers, you don't have to have a CDL if you want to drive our bus. We drive it to save lives, and not very many people get to say they saved the baby today. So you get to be part of that. And then it costs money to make them run. So some of you may be here to kind of undergird the ministry so that we can put these astronauts on the moon, so to speak, and consider mission control with us, see what God does. So I'm going to close in prayer, and then we got something we want to show you. Father in heaven, thank you. Thank you, Lord, that you choose to use us, even though we're unworthy vessels. We don't deserve it. But yet, Father, you let us be on your team. You let us do your work, and I thank you for that. I pray, Father, that you bless each family represented at these tables, bless them, encourage them. I pray that their light would shine in our city, and that this would be contagious, that their light would inspire others to shine. I ask, God, that the gospel would go forth and people come to know Christ and hearts would be changed. I do pray for our legislators and the people that make decisions, Father, our governor, our president. I pray, Father, that they make wise decisions and remember who we are as a nation, one nation under God. Father, I just pray for the most vulnerable of our people, Father, the unborn child. I pray, Father, that you protect that life because it's made in your image. Father, we love you. Give you praise in Jesus' name.